Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to another episode of Somatic Navigation. Um, really excited about kind of what I'm talking about today, so I hope you are too. Today, kind of what I want to talk about again is fascia, and so again, explaining that it's the stuff that covers you from head to toe, and it covers every individual organ, it covers every individual muscle cell, and then wraps around bundles of cells, and then so on and so forth until it wraps around the entire muscle and becomes the tendons. And then also it wraps around your bones, and then also bigger areas of your body where it kind of just keeps it all connected, and it's all this connective tissue that kind of keeps things in place to where they're supposed to be. So the fascia is very important because it does all this stuff, and it also talks to each other. So your fascia in your foot actually could affect the fascia in your head. So kind of keeping that in mind too. I'm going to also ask you to consider some other things that you might not really believe in, but just to kind of keep an open mind about what I'm saying, and let your body kind of feel it out. Does it really feel like, are you like, maybe not let your mind process it so much as your body process it? So kind of feeling, does this feel, what I'm saying actually feel right to you? And that's kind of like what we've been talking about this whole time, is like what feels right for you. Because that is like the best thing that you can do, is listening to your body and listening to yourself. So keeping that in mind, kind of what I want to talk today is about how things get introduced into your body and how injuries happen and why they are lingering. So if we take a pathogen, for instance, let's say we have this pathogen, this disease, this virus or something like that wants to get introduced into your body. First of all, it has to be present. Second of all, there has to be a way for it to get in, so you have to have a cut or a scrape, or it has to get in through like your mouth, your eyes, your nose, or something like that. It has to have a way to get introduced into your body. And then on top of that, there also has to be a way for it to adapt to you and thrive. So if it is unable to like reproduce itself, or if you have antibodies that go in there and attack it, it's not going to be able to do that. So basically, your body's going to be a hostile environment for it, and it won't be able to thrive, which is good for you. And so that's kind of how you want to be. You want to be in your best health, so that anything that's trying to get into your body can't. And you can also do this not only with like pathogens, but you can do this with emotions. So if we're talking about, let's say that fight, freeze emotion, the things that like as soon as something starts to happen, like it's the stuff that makes you want to like get up and either run away or kick something, or crawl into the fetal position, that kind of thing. So the things that make you either fight, flight, or freeze. And so if we talk about an individual muscle, let's talk about the psoas muscle. Psoas muscle goes from your vertebrae, your lower vertebrae, into your upper leg bone, your femur. And what this muscle's job is to do is to pick up your leg. So it helps you with marching, it helps you with staying stable when you're seated, and when you're seated in that position, let's say you have like a desk job or something like that, or some job where you sit for most of the day, and but you have all these things that are making you kind of on edge, like they're making you feel like worried about things, and it's putting you in this fight, flight, freeze mode. So maybe your boss is on you about something, maybe there's something that you have a deadline for that you can't really, you're not able to get to as quickly as you'd like, or it's really approaching, now you're really like adrenaline's pumping, that kind of thing. And thinking about all of this stuff, like your body is processing this as like you are still in survival mode. So it feels like to your body like you're like running from some animal and you're in danger, or that you need to play possum or something because something's going to eat you, like, or maybe you were in the military and you still feel like you were kind of like in war, that kind of thing. Like, so it's like your body is still, even though you might be in a safe place, like you might be at your desk and it might be in a safe area, there isn't anything going on. There aren't bombs going off, gun shooting, there's no lions around. Like, even though you're in a safe space, it's not always your body's way of processing things. It might still feel like to your body that you are going through something that needs to be, you need to fight, you need to freeze, you need to run as fast as you can. And this activates those muscles that help you do that. So one of the first muscles that activates when you get in this fight, flight, freeze mode is your psoas muscle. So a lot of energy is stored in this muscle because it's your biggest hip flexor. Again, it's one of those ones that kind of gets activated first because you're about to go do something, or you're about to like protect yourself, getting into the fetal position. Like, you're doing something that's going to activate this when you get that adrenaline rush. So whether it came in because you just got this email from your boss saying, hey, we had to move that deadline up. I know I said I gave you like 3 weeks, but really we're gonna need it done by the end of the week, kind of thing. And so what that does is that energy starts to build up in those muscles. And when they aren't released, so exercise and movement help get them to release. But sometimes there's still some lingering patterns in your body. So sometimes it's not just enough to just exercise it out or to stretch it out or, do something like that. Sometimes the fascia actually remembers all of this stuff, and it just keeps building and building and building until there's a problem. You start having low back pain. You start feeling like anxious all the time, like you just can't get out of this fight, flight, freeze mode. And when this happens, like, one of the things that you can do to help release that is start releasing those muscles that store those emotions. So for instance, your psoas is, again, this big muscle that is really active. So doing things to kind of to release the muscle. So you might be like this stretch where you're doing this one and it's really getting that muscle to release. It might be doing a press up where you're laying on your stomach and you go into like cobra, or again that press up where you're pushing back against the floor. Getting in one of those positions to kind of help release that muscle. But sometimes it's a little bit more than just that. Sometimes it needs to have things processed out. Sometimes memories and emotions get trapped there, and that results in this the fascia being kind of locked together. So, doing things that are good for you, like exercise is partly there, and then also doing things like you might go see a therapist, like a talk therapist, and they might be able to help you process some of those things. Or it just might be figuring out which point it is on your wrists, and figuring out like, oh, I have all this tension and it seems to be really high when I'm in this adrenaline mode. So adrenaline is kind of stored in a couple different points in your wrist. So if you're feeling it's kind of all these emotions, you might start with the top one. So the very first, so 3 fingers on, 2 fingers off, and you've got just one still on there, and then you put that on your forehead, and that can help you process the emotion. Or it is the third finger on your right hand. So first finger on your left, or a third finger on your right, and one of those two will probably be the most helpful in kind of processing those kind of things. But also that fight, flight, freeze is generally a safety, security issue. So again, we're going back to that foundation stuff, the red chakra, your root chakra. So these points in Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, they're the red points. So so if you're thinking about going, trying to release all of this energy that you have, or all these emotions that are kind of being stored and built up, and progressively making things worse. Again, things can start like, the fascia can in one spot get a little bit tight, and then as these things keep happening, keep piling on, and you're not processing that tension that was just maybe a little bit, might end up being like a whole lot of fascia, many different layers that are kind of stuck together now because you haven't been able to get that emotion out of your body, and your mind kind of gets still stuck in this loop of I'm in danger and I need to have these muscles tight and I need to be ready to go and I need to be ready to fight, fight, flight, freeze kind of stuff. So when you're trying to process this emotion, like again, you can try the pulse points and see if you can get that to move through your body. And you can do that at your desk while you're reading that email and going, oh no, like this is happening. And then seeing if like that helps process some of the emotions. It might be helpful for you to actually get up and do a press up on the floor to see if maybe you can release a little that way, or maybe it's getting into a lunge and getting it to open up a little bit more that way. Doing things like massage and things like that are also helpful. Some people can do releases for your psoas in a couple different ways. Sometimes it's kind of digging in there. Other people are a little bit more subtle in that they can kind of get in and sandwich your psoas and get it to release a little bit that way, and more on an energetic level, which is probably things that might be help you release that emotion, that trauma, that those things just a little bit better. Again, all of this is just kind of information, food for thought, things for you to think about and see like what feels right for you, and you might just try some of this stuff and see if that helps, if it seems to get rid of this feeling like you're constantly on guard. And especially like if you have like a desk job and things like that. So back to kind of like the original thing that I was talking about with it has to have a way to get introduced into your body, and a vulnerability has to be there. So your vulnerability would be that you might sit a lot. So that could put it in a shortened position all the time. And so if it's constantly in a shortened position all the time, then having all these like fight, flight, freeze emotions going through you might just exacerbate the situation here. It might just kind of keep it a little bit tighter, a little bit longer than it really needs to be. Whereas maybe if you were up standing around, like up moving around, things like that, and you're reading this email and having it processed that way, it might not get into your body as much. So just kind of a couple of things to think about. Again, this is just food for thought, provoking-ish questions versus like actual medical advice. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and you can check me out on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, Somato Enlightenment. Thanks, and have a great day.